yeah, it's a big deal. They want $1 million from me, and the to explain what it's about, there's a racial element to this. You see, I made a criticism of this professor who is black, and I used the term house Negro. And the term house Negro was defined by Malcolm X. And I explained that in the blog post, and I actually embed the video of Malcolm X explaining what he means when he uses the term house Negro versus field Negro in modern times. And it's a term that's quite well known and used to criticize black public officials, for example, quite frequently. Obama has been called this. It's all over the internet. And it basically means a black person um, uh, who uses I have to put it precisely here. It's basically who serves as a mediator between power and less advantaged persons of color in order to cause an acceptance of the power structure. Okay, these are not the most elegant words, but
you're
and
being
I've said it.
careful.
Yeah, I'm being careful, and I've said it differently in various legal documents as well. But basically, we all know what it means.
I could have an attempt. It's someone who betrays their ethnic group in order to benefit themselves by serving white power interests. That would be one definition.
Well, yeah, it's not a definition that I like, because I don't think that you're necessarily betraying your ethnic group in doing this. What you're supporting those in your ethnic group who are behaving like you in supporting power. You see, so it's not as simple as you're betraying your race. I don't agree with that definition, although a lot of people like to put it that way. And I think that the people who like to put it that way are precisely those who one could accuse of being house Negroes who want to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not a simple division on race. The person who is a house Negro is supporting other house Negroes who are also black. So it's not a simple division of race. It's not. You see my point.
Yes.
It's more a class. It's more.
So this perceived house Negro in the University of Ottawa law faculty was commissioned to do a report to do with race, and drew conclusions that were contradicting the claims of the Students' Union at the University of Ottawa, who had claimed there was systemic racism at the University of Ottawa, and this is what led you to make this statement. Is that correct?
Precisely. So the law professor accepted to do a report, an evaluation report on the student report. The student report had found what they said was evidence of systemic racism at the University of Ottawa. They had some statistics, they had some case studies, they put out a big report, it was in the media, and then this professor wrote a report that said that their report was, there was no evidence in their report that would allow one to make that firm conclusion that there was systemic racism at the university. So that's what she accepted to do, and that's what she did. And so I studied her report, and I concluded that it was an attempt to fix a media liability that the university had as a result of the student report. And I said that, and I said it back in 2008, and then I said it again, but in stronger terms in 2011, and it's the second time that gave rise to the lawsuit.
So what kind? Who are the law firms you're up against? Because I know they're not your everyday lawyers, are they? And you're representing yourself. So this is something of a Hollywood movie almost. There's Denny Rancor representing himself against who? Could you tell me who you're up against?
Well, I'm up against a firm called Gowlings, which is one of the largest law firms in Canada. And the chief counsel for the plaintiff is a lawyer who is an expert in defamation law and who has won the largest defamation award by the court in Canadian history.
Wow.
So he's a very well-known litigator. And the university is also a party to this motion on Champerty. So I'm up against the university on this particular motion as well. And the university is represented by BLG, which is one of the very top law firms in Canada. Both of these are national law firms. And BLG, the litigator that is the lead counsel for the university, one of his last jobs was to represent Jean Chrétien, a former Prime Minister of Canada, and in order to overturn any liability that the former Prime Minister would have had in the was it the Montgomery affair or something? Anyway, he won that case. So these are the people I'm dealing with, and so it's not uncommon for me to be alone on one side of the table and 5 or more lawyers on the other side.
And these are the top lawyers in Canada who are representing highly powerful people who have been hired to take you on and to try and destroy you. Is that the case?
That's really that's how I see it. Yeah, that's how I see it. I mean, it's a highly funded lawsuit. I mean, this is a law professor who, has tenure, has a good salary, and is a law professor. So there's not a problem of access to justice here. If she wants to sue someone, she can sue someone, But despite that, they're funding this large legal campaign to ensure that, I guess try and win this case to the full extent of the law as what they want to do. So I'm self-represented and I'm just doing my best. I'm surviving, and I'm learning an awful lot, and I'm learning about the legal system as well. I'm learning about the people that I'm up against. I'm learning about the motives. I'm learning about how the justice system works. Yeah, it's a learning experience, to say the least.
And just to reiterate, the university commissioned this law prof. Basically, you've exposed that this wasn't just an individual and autonomous thing done by Professor St. Louis in the University of Ottawa Law Faculty. Actually, there was those people who had been your antagonists in the administration pertaining to your role as a professor. They had actually put her up to this, it would appear.
Well, I wouldn't go that far at this point. I mean, that's what I'm trying to demonstrate in court. It hasn't been proven yet, but I'm trying to prove that within the balance of probabilities that that's the kind of thing that has occurred. And in my opinion, there's a significant amount of evidence that would point in that direction, and I will be presenting that evidence to the best of my ability to the court. But that's right. It took me 6 months of hard work to get the university to publicly admit that they were funding this lawsuit. So I guess you could say it was a kind of truth campaign on my part, where I said, listen, I'm concerned. I want to know if the university is funding this. So why don't you just tell me? And so I went on I made a concerted effort to find out and basically forced their hand to the point where they had to admit that they were fully funding this lawsuit. That's right. And so once I learned that they were fully funding the lawsuit, that's when I put forward a motion for Champerty, maintenance in Champerty. And so that's going ahead. So far, I have, as part of that motion, I can cross-examine witnesses. So far, I've cross-examined the president of the university, Alan Rock, the dean of the common law faculty, Bruce Feltusen, the Professor St. Louis herself, the plaintiff, a lawyer that works for the university, and also the chair of the Board of Governors at the University of Ottawa. His name is Giroux, Robert Giroux. So I've cross-examined all these people in order to try and discover the truth about this funding arrangement. And they basically have refused to answer the great majority of my questions, and they've refused to produce the documents that I asked for, and therefore I have to now put forward what is called a refusals motion, where I ask the court to order them to answer my questions and to produce the documents. And that motion will be heard in June, so next month. And I've got a date for that, and I'll be arguing that in front of a judge. And if I succeed even partially in that motion, it means that some of these people will have to be re-examined by me and will have to answer many of my questions. So that's the process. They have basically stonewalled my attempt to dig into the truth of this funding agreement. And as a result, I have to go back to court to try to get some of these questions.
And would you say this is slowly starting to backfire on those? I mean, they're having to be subjected to cross-examination by their nemesis. You know, is it starting to backfire on them? Those such as Alan Rock and others who appear to have instigated this whole imbroglio.
You would have to ask them, you know, how they feel about that. And certainly, if I succeed in my motion to demonstrate maintenance of champerty, then you'll be able to say it has completely backfired. But even just exposing in some depth how they came to this agreement and the motives for coming to this agreement, I think in itself is a great success. I mean, the things I've learned even up till now are quite shocking as far as I'm concerned, and make for a very strong case that this was improper, in my opinion. Now, I don't want to share what I've learned with you at this stage because I don't want to give away my legal arguments. But I'm quite blown away by how bold these actors have been in setting up this litigation.
Yeah, and your long-term goal is not to get rich from this. You just want your job back. Is that correct?
Well, there's no way that I could get rich from this. You know, I'm not suing them. They're suing me. They're trying to extract $1 million from me. So I can only get poor from this. You know, every day that I'm in court is costing me money. Even though I'm self-represented, every time you lose a motion, you have to pay their costs. Every time you file something with the court, you have to pay filing fees and so on. So I've actually spent a fair amount of money on this up to now, and I expect I will need to spend more money. So there's no way that I can make money from this. Same goes with my job. I just want to recover the position that is mine. There's no way. I don't expect that the tribunal will award me punitive damages against the university. That's almost unheard of in a labor tribunal decision. I have argued to my union that they should argue that I'm entitled to punitive damages. I don't know if they will. I don't know if the case will be strong enough that they can make a good case for punitive damages. We have to wait and see.
Well, I mean, it's highly admirable what you're doing, and it sounds like you're simply a professor who wants to do his job, who cares about the pedagogy in his classroom. I mean, so many profs these days, I mean, often you buy these corporate textbooks and they come with a CD with a PowerPoint and the professor just regurgitates that textbook, whereas you're someone who's being conscientious and making a concerted effort to enhance the learning experience in your classroom. And you've been persecuted for this, as well as taking moral stances on the Israel-Palestine conflict and on a number of other issues. If people wanted to donate to your legal fund, would they be able to do so? Do you have an email, or could you provide your website?
For that, there's no need for that at this point. You know, I'm not requesting that at this point. There may come a time in the future, depending on how this evolves, where that will become necessary. Right now, I'm taking this on using my savings, and we'll see how far that gets. But you pointed out about how I'm just an academic who wants to do his job, and I have to share something with you, Joshua. The last year that I was allowed to teach a large first-year physics course, something I had been doing for 20 years, I decided to teach this advanced physics course. Well, a first year, freshman physics, but a real physics course.